Back now on Newsmax Prime to take note of today's visit by President Obama to a controversial mosque in Baltimore, making a plea for tolerance and religious freedom. The mosque the president visited has extremist ties. The former imam at the Islamic Society of Baltimore, tied to the Muslim Brotherhood, also a Virginia mosque where extremist Anwar al-Awlaki used to preach. So what kind of message does this send the world, and in particular, our key ally in the Middle East, Israel? For more on the entire topic, we're pleased to be joined from Newsmax New York by Harvard Law School professor and Newsmax contributor Alan Dershowitz. Alan, also the author of the new book, Abraham, the world's first, but certainly not last, Jewish lawyer. Alan, what message is the president sending today to Israel and to others?
Well, he's sending a mixed message to all people who are concerned about terrorism. One message he's sending is no guilt by association. Just because a past imam may have had some ties to bad guys doesn't mean that we have to generalize and not visit a mosque which may have a lot of good people. On the other hand, it also sends a message that perhaps the president isn't as careful as he could be in selecting which mosque to go to. Perhaps he could have selected a mosque where you had people who are very actively involved in helping our Justice Department and other national security people in ferreting out terrorism. Now, we need the cooperation of Muslim leaders and Muslim lay people in helping us to identify terrorism. So it's a mixed message, and I think it could have been better organized.
Well, was the president, or were the president's advisors being deliberately provocative, picking this mosque over another fellowship?
It's not clear. The president and his advisors make mistakes, so you never know. I mean, you always should assume foolishness rather than malice on the part of any public official, but here you have a president who just a short number of days ago went to the Israeli embassy and declared we are all Jews when it comes to fighting anti-Semitism. The other thing you have to know is whether or not anti-Semitism or anti-Israeli attitudes are preached to this mosque. I'd like to know a lot more about the mosque before I came to a final conclusion, but you'd think the president could have gone out of his way to find a mosque which has an affirmative, positive involvement in the war against terrorism.
Speaking of that war, or at least other interactions in the Middle East and the Persian Gulf, Iran is reportedly warning our government that if we humiliate that nation, the Iranian Navy will release more footage of the U.S. sailors detained last month. Apparently, these images much more embarrassing than what was previously released. Are the Iranians just using leverage that this White House and administration handed them, in essence, carte blanche?
Well, I think we handed them a major victory. We handed the hardliners a major victory when we signed on to the Iran deal, which was a bad deal. Not only does it increase the chances that Iran will eventually develop nuclear weapons, it has had a terrible impact on our economy. Even Secretary Kerry acknowledges that some of the money that we have given them will go to terrorism, will go to support Hezbollah, will go to support America's enemies, Israel's enemies, and I think we're seeing some muscle flexing on the part of Iran. Iran's hardliners, I think, have won this fight because they now have told the moderates, if there are any moderates, look, when you're tough with America, America folds. And I think we're seeing an America that has folded in front of Iran in very, very many ways. This is only the most recent manifestation of it.
And Alan, for a portion of your comments, we were running alongside images of our sailors on their knees with their hands behind their heads. The photography, we're seeing it again. As I understand this, this is in direct violation of the Geneva Convention. Does this not reveal quite graphically that Iran doesn't give a tinker's damn about international law?
Well, if you're just learning that, where have you been for the last 30 years? Iran started by violating the most basic principle of international law, and that is capturing diplomats and holding them hostage for a long, long period of time. They have never been concerned about international law. They're building rockets now that can carry nuclear missiles in violation of UN Security Council resolutions. And anybody who thinks that Iran for 1 second would think about whether they are violating the treaty, or if it's not a treaty, the agreement, or violating international law, it's naive. They just couldn't care less about international law. They live by its violation. You can hardly imagine a day when Iran has complied with international law, whether it be the Geneva Accords or any other rules.
And Alan, that makes it all the more perplexing, the current administration's response to the government of Iran. Alan Dershowitz, author of Abraham, the world's first but certainly not last Jewish lawyer. Thanks for your time, and there's more ahead, so stay with us.